Welcome to Messenger. Today I want to talk about Bill 156. Okay, according to the government of Ontario, it's a bill that they passed. It's a law now. Took effect in December 2020, so about 3 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago, at the time of me creating this video. Okay, I'm also going to include this article. I recommend you take a look at it. It's going to be included underneath this video. First link in the description. Okay. Factory farming. So the Ontario government has passed this bill, and they say that its purpose is to protect the food supply farmers, factory workers, and from animal activists who trespass on company property. So is that really true? Is this really the case? Okay. I'm going to say I totally disagree with that. Okay. Yes, it's going to stop animal activists from trespassing on company property, right? But in truth, what it really is doing, it's going to stop the ability for these companies and corporations in factory farming to receive any scrutiny from the public. Why is that? Because let's just think about it. Use some common sense here. If an activist is not able to get into the facilities because he or she is afraid of the large fines that are now in place and could be faced, right, with some huge fines. What is it going to do? It's going to prevent a lot of these videos and images from being carried forward to the public. So it's going to be able to hide a lot of cruelty that's going on every single day in this factory farming industry. Okay. What am I talking about? Okay, here's one picture. This picture right here. It's a picture of pigs. There's a huge slaughterhouse right here in Ontario, Canada, in Burlington, Ontario, and I believe they slaughter about 10,000 pigs every day. I believe that was the number, 10,000 pigs every single day. How do they kill pigs? I never knew this information until I started doing this research, but a lot of this type of information is hidden from the public, and you got to really dig for it. But basically, as they unload pigs who haven't received water or food, some of them have been in transit for up to 3 days. Can you believe that? Right? Other places, they're closer to the slaughterhouse, but these animals can be in transit up to 3 days, depending on how far away the farms are from the slaughterhouse. And they don't feed the pigs or give them water on purpose. One of the main reasons is so they're tired, right? If you have tired, weary animals who are dehydrated and starving to death, once you're able to offload them, right? And how do they offload them? They have all kinds of different devices with electric shock, right? They basically shock and poke the pigs until they scream enough and finally run off the back of the tractor trailer. Now, once they get off, right, they're urged along little corridors until finally they get behind moving pieces like walls that push them down other corridors, and it's quite horrific how fast these moving walls and these conveyor belts are moving, and the terror that these animals are experiencing, right? Finally, they get them down. They noticed that when they separate these animals, that because they're social creatures, just like human beings, that they start acting up and screaming and giving them a harder time. So what they do is they get about 4 or 5 of them into a cage by, these walls pushing them down the corridor until they get into a cage. The cage closes. And this is like a scene from a horror movie. The cage lowers into the depths and into the darkness with these creatures who are just like humans, other than, body parts, right? Other than the brain capabilities that humans have, right? But they still living, breathing creatures who are perceiving the world and the horror that's happening to them. They're lured into the pits, into a room underneath here, and they are gassed to death. What does that mean? That means that they're going to inhale carbon dioxide through their nose, through their mouths. It's going to burn for 30 seconds. So can you imagine if that happened to you or your children as a human being? So to me, is that a humane way to kill an animal before you're going to slaughter them? And at that point in time, as they're lured into the pits of hell, into the darkness, they're going to burn through the nostrils and through the mouths for 30 seconds or more, and rendered unconscious, hopefully, right? And then their throats are slit. Some of them are not completely unconscious as their throats are slit. And this is not a halal type of meat factory and slaughterhouses that I'm talking about. Those are even worse. Okay, that's a story for another day. So where am I going with all of this? Some of you may add or may be asking. I'm going with the idea of this story here, how the slaughterhouses are operating in this loving country of Canada, right? That's exactly how they are. And none of us would, in the public, would know this if it wasn't for an activist who snuck into a slaughterhouse and actually videotaped the whole process. There are videos on YouTube, if you go out there and search for them, how they're actually killed and gassed and then having their throats slit. You can actually go and see it for yourself. I highly recommend you go out there and do your research. You know, we are in the age of enlightenment. A lot of you guys are talking about getting enlightened and, you know, all that wonderful stuff. But part of becoming an enlightened being, right, is not just knowing about love and goodness. It's also knowing about the bad. We're in a universe of cause and effect here, a world of light and dark, right? Even for the people who are not into all that, you know, hocus pocus type of information, right? But we are in a world on earth here with, you know, in the day it's got light and in the night it's got darkness. So as becoming enlightened, and especially if you eat meat, I'm not here trying to, you know, convince you to be a vegetarian or even a vegan. That's your choice. My job here is just to, you know, help people see, get the information. If you're a meat eater, you should have enough courage to actually know what it takes to get that, you know, wonderful piece of meat on your dinner plate. If you eat meat, you should see what it takes to get that meat in front of you. And people who are not willing to do that, I don't think should be eating meat. If you want to eat stuff, you should know what you're putting in to your body. Shouldn't you? Shouldn't you? Okay, so let's get back to the bill. Bill 156. So activists are gonna be, you know, a lot more scared to, you know, get to trespass on property and get in here and get this video footage. Okay. But Ontario government's saying, hey, it's a good thing. It's going to protect farmers, protect industry workers and all that stuff. And it's here mainly to protect you, the consumers. But in truth, what is it doing? They just don't want you, the consumers, to actually see what happens to your meat because they're scared you might, you know, cut down on your meat consumption. But as I said, if you want to eat meat, you should have enough courage to see what it takes to get that meat on your dinner plate. You should be concerned, since these are perceiving animals, and, you know, all of the fear and horror and cruelty that they're experiencing goes into their memory, into their DNA, and then what are you doing? You're eating that meat and you're ingesting it. So wouldn't it affect you somewhere along the line? I would think so, right? So these are some things to consider. Okay, so the public's not going to be able to see stories like this here. This is something that happened here, Paragon Farms, Putnam, Ontario. Just, I believe 30 kilometers out of London. You guys can go and Google this. You're going to find a lot of publications on this animal cruelty. I'm not going to play this video. It's horrible. It's horrendous. It shows farm workers slapping, punching, and even stabbing pigs with sharp instruments. And get this, castrating pigs without any painkillers or even putting them under anesthesia. Can you imagine if someone did that to your child, right? If you had a baby. Because these pigs, aren't they, baby pigs, right? Piglets who feel pain. Newborns, and all of a sudden some guy, he just grabs some giant scissors and chops off your genitals or your children. That would be a horrible, painful experience even for a human being, right? But this is what's happening, and it's even shown in this video. And I highly recommend, if you eat pork, right, know what you're putting into your body, and know, it's going to affect you even if you don't care about animals, right? Whatever you consume is going to affect you. What is one of the most leading causes of death nowadays? Isn't it like heart-related stuff that's linked to people eating too much meat and even getting obese, eating other foods as well, but a lot of fat and cholesterol? I think there's another issue going on here. I'll get into that in just a moment, maybe towards the end of this video. So because of this new bill, right? If this bill 156 was in place before they actually got footage here, there was a gentleman by the name who called himself Elijah. Elijah went in. I don't think that's his real name, because his real name doesn't need to be publicized, but you're going to see him in here. And he went into Paragon Farms as a factory worker, right? And he had a hidden camera on him somewhere, and he got all of that brutality. You can't be kicking and punching pigs, right? Just to get him to move. He was just recording an untrained, unskilled, and incompetent employees doing this kind of stuff. You got to be incompetent to be castrating these animals without anesthesia, or is that just a common thing that happens with these factory farms? Maybe it just costs too much money to go out there and put them under, so next best thing, we don't forget about the painkillers. We'll save money and we'll get more profit here, and we'll just chop their balls off while they're alive, these little piglets. They're just animals. They're just animals, right? So you wouldn't see stuff like this because of Bill 156. That's why they're preventing. So I highly recommend, if you're in the public and you're a meat eater, right, that you go out there and you petition against it, because basically the government of Ontario does not want you to see what's happening behind closed corporate doors. Then here's another story in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Maple Lodge Farms, guys. Maple Lodge Farms, one of the largest chicken producers in Canada, right? Maybe you have heard of them. We're fined $1 million. This is an old story, guys, but this kind of stuff is happening every single day. Did Maple Lodge Farms actually learn their lesson, right? I'm going to talk about that. Keep watching. Bear with me. So they were fined $1 million in the past for what? You got to be fined. You got to have done something really bad if the Ontario government's going to put a fine in your company for that much, right? What did they do? Animal cruelty, guys. Animal cruelty. Chickens suffering during transport. Some people are going to say, "Oh, no biggie. It's the industry. I mean, what are we supposed to do, right?" Freezing or extremely hot temperatures. Well, the government of Ontario disagreed with you guys, or else you guys would have never got that $1 million fine, right? But as I said, the government themselves are the ones that implemented 156. So they find these guys. Oh, you guys were bad in the past. Here's your fine. You see, the government doesn't like headache. That's what I'm thinking. Isn't that common sense? If you were running the country or running the province of Ontario, you're like, hey man, I just want to run this province, things to go smooth, laws to pass, people to abide by them. We don't want any headache. We don't want these animal activists. Even the police are like, animal activists, you're a pain in the ass. We just want to do our jobs, right? These guys are showing up here. We got to do extra stuff. The government of Ontario is saying extra stuff. We're going to have to send people to these facilities. We're going to have to do these huge investigations. And then it's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra stuff. So on the back end and the front end, the government's saying, yeah, we care about you guys, consumers. We got this new bill 156 in effect, right? And it's going to protect our food supply, and it's going to protect you, the consumer. On the back end, oh, the animal activists can't get in and take any more video live footage, and the employees can do what we don't care what they're doing behind closed doors. It's their companies, their corporations. But we don't want the headache. We got to go send people there. So they don't want the public to scrutinize the industry, because then who has to come in? The government has to come in and save the day, right? They got to come in and save the day. The authorities, guys. So this is what happened. Maple Lodge Farms in the past fined $1 million, animal cruelty, chickens, and this is still happening up to now, chickens suffering during transport, freezing or extremely hot temperatures, losing limbs in the distribution process. What does that mean? You got a bunch of guys who are unloading crates off of a they have like these crates that are loaded into the back of a trailer, an open trailer, right? And these crates are strapped on. If you're driving down the 401, right, or the 400, or the 410, or the 403, or the QEW, next time you see a load of chickens, take a look and see how they're loaded, right? See how they're loaded. They're pretty well open to the world. I believe they put tarp around part of it, right? I'm not an actual logistics expert, but you guys can see what I'm talking about if you look for these things. So look out, next time you might see a load of chickens on the way for slaughter at Maple Lodge Farms. So as they're unloading these chickens from these crates, right, a lot of these workers are in such a hurry to do their jobs that they grab these animals and they lose, legs, they lose wings, stuff like that, lost limbs in the distribution process, and just unloading them from the crates because the workers are in such a hurry to do the job. Maybe the company is having the workers under a lot of pressure, so they sure as heck can't hire any Tom, Dick, or Harry who has any compassion for animals whatsoever, because they won't last at any of these big industry companies like Maple Lodge Farms, or even on the farms themselves, guys. You got compassion, you sure as hell want to be able to do these jobs. Also, what happened to these chickens? I'm thinking it probably still happens behind closed doors. I don't have any evidence because I can't go into I've never done these type of things. My hat's off to these activists who actually went out there and have courage to do these kind of things. Go out there, and the only thing standing between an animal who's going through cruelty for their whole life, pain, suffering, is an animal activist. And now, it's closed the doors to them completely, right? So they lose limbs in the distribution process and excruciating pain and suffering. From after that, employees grab them and hang them upside. They grab them by their legs. Half of these chickens are, can you imagine if you have a broken leg and somebody grabbed you upside down and then strung you onto these metal hangers by by your feet? And sometimes they do it in such a hurry, as you're going to see in this video, that a lot of these chickens are going through so much pain because they're hanging on one foot, right? Some of them lose, the foot goes in, and because they are handled so roughly and quickly, sometimes the chicken leg is separated from the chicken foot. You're going to see a chicken screaming as he's hanging on one leg, going through this horror story before they are gassed, unconscious, to have their throats slit alive. In the past, based on what someone released in this Maple Lodge story, 40% of chickens would arrive dead. Is there any change now? Did they actually have like temperature compartment closed trailers to actually not suffer these animals before they send them to the slaughterhouse. You know, chickens can be cooped up in the back of a tractor trailer, as I said, you know, for days. Pigs can be up to 3 days. Chickens, I don't know if some, it depends on how far they're coming from other provinces or Manitoba, even into Ontario. You could spend a long time on the road. I've always seen these tractor trailers hauling livestock. Middle of the night, you see the truck driver parked up somewhere. Of course, he's got to get his sleep, or else he's just gonna, you know, crash into stuff if he doesn't get any sleep. But he's nice and warm in the bunk. Well, you've got like a load of pigs or a load of chickens or a load of cows or a load of other type of animal freezing to death in these deep freeze conditions that you would experience in the beautiful Ontario, Canada. Okay, all kinds of horror stories that won't be able to expose before all of these body parts are shipped off to KFC, Swiss Chalet, and grocery stores. Now, one of the worst stories, and stories like this, as I said, because of this 156 bill, baby chickens ground up live at Maple Leaf Foods in New Hamburg. That's just outside of Stratford, I believe, if memory recalls. Been there, and I believe, yeah, that's where it happened. Maple Leaf Foods, and there's a video here. It's so bad that if you go down to the article below, there's a link underneath here. You're gonna have to click through, and it's gonna make you watch this, and you're also gonna have to click I understand and wish to proceed, because it's pretty brutal. Okay, I'm just gonna give you a quick idea. Some of these chickens you're gonna see thrown into a meat grinder, brand new babies, right? They have machines that are created nowadays. We call it technology and advancement, guys. They're created to, you know, rip these babies out of the shell. Once they're out of the shell, these humans, without compassion, because you can't have compassion to do this kind of job. One lady had passion in the past, and she lost it and made a joke about it, and she got fired. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But you got workers over here. I'm pointing here with the cursor. They're grabbing these things just like, you know, they're just products. But these things are living creatures, guys. They're living creatures. It's getting pretty damn ridiculous with technology and advancement that humans have nowadays. It's just a horror story, right? Happening all day long, all night long. These factories are just chug, chug, chug. These tractor trailers chug, chug, chug down the road, just producing and gobbling and grinding. So they grab these little animals, and the ones that don't have any defects or abnormal, any type of abnormal looks, they toss them into a dryer. Can you imagine, like your clothes dryer, but something that's, you know, a little different? And you'll see them all, you know, getting juggled around, little tiny baby chicks. So this is the kind of information that Bill 156 is going to stop you guys, the public consumers, from seeing what is happening to your food before it gets to your dinner plate. So you got a bunch of baby chicks all, you know, popped into a dryer, and they're going up and down, up and down, up and down, being dried. Can you imagine that happened to you if you came out of the womb of your mommy and someone grabbed you and just chucked you into a machine? Oh, but we're humans, and those are just no, guys, we can't think like that and expect to completely, you know, existing in this planet we call Earth. And that type of thinking is gonna, you know, we're gonna experience some issues if we keep going on with these errors in our ways, because some people think it's just advancement and it's just evolution. Is it truly evolution? You know, that's for a video for another day. Video watching like some caveman, or think the cavemen were meat eaters and blah blah blah. Anyways, here we are. So some of these chicks, they don't make it to the dryer. Some of them who are alive, for whatever issues that they have, a whole bunch of them, because they this hatchery hatches chicks all day long. They take these chicks, as you'll be able to see if you actually click through to the video for yourself. And you'll know it's real because it's a real video that a whistleblower released to the consumers of Ontario, Canada, for you guys to see. These guys toss them in here, then a guy just basically takes some type of other object, and he just squeezes them in there towards these little meat grinders while they're alive. The little babies are going to just ground up, and they laugh and joke about it while they do it. Okay, some of the chicks, because the employees back here are in such a hurry to unload these, to do their work. Okay, they're not unloading chicks from the back of tractor trailers because the chicks are actually hatched at the hatchery, but they all have X amount of time to do their jobs, and of course they gotta really be quick with their hands. Sometimes they forget some chicks in the baskets that they put these chicks in, and these baskets, they go through washing machines with scalding boiling water, right? It has to purify the baskets. They don't want too much bacteria sitting around the processing plant, guys, right? It's just common sense. And some of these little chicks are going to drown. Either they drown or they boil to death. And a worker, she joked about, I used to have compassion about them, but not anymore, and it was caught on video. And as a scapegoat, what did Maple Leaf Foods do? And they fired her, guys, as a scapegoat. Oh, it's her fault. One of the biggest people for Bill of 156 companies is Maple Leaf Foods, as well as Maple Lodge Farms and other companies. I'm sure, like Paragon Farms, sure as heck would appreciate this Bill 156. So that's about all I have for you guys today. But we are in the information and communication ages, right? So we should really see, especially when we want to become enlightened people, we really need to look, the public really needs to see what is happening behind closed doors. Also, there are a lot of you people who eat meat, right? It's fine, it's a choice. I've done it for years. Bacon and cheeseburgers and barbecue and all that stuff. Tasty, sizzling steak. But a guy came up to me one day and he said, "Hey man, you eat meat?" I'm like, yeah. He wasn't an actual vegan either. He was actually another meat eater. And he said, "Hey, if you want to continue eating that, you should have enough balls to actually see what these animals go through, and you should really be concerned about what you're putting into your body." So what I'm trying to get at here is, shouldn't you, right? A lot of people are, we don't want to see that stuff, we just want to eat our meat. No, you should have enough courage to see what it takes to get that scrumptious piece of meat on your plate in front of you. Another thing I'm thinking about here before I close off, a lot of you meat eaters, right, love animals. Some of you have dogs, cats, other animals that you keep at home, and you love them, right? Can you imagine if this was in China and this wasn't a pig, right? It was a bunch of dogs. I seen a video from China where, I don't know if it was China, I think it was China or a country like China, right? Doesn't matter where the video, what country it came from, but it was a dog getting boiled alive, right? So if the people of Ontario, Canada would see something like horrendous, this is just a bunch of pigs going down and then getting gassed, going through excruciating pain. Can you imagine if your dog went through this, right? Or other dogs. So some of you who eat meat actually love animals. Do you want, I'm sure even if you like pork, some of you wouldn't want these animals to go through the pain and suffering that they do, right? Some of you work in the government, and when you see stuff like that, it hurts your heart. Some of you work in law enforcement, and you can't say nothing because all of your peers are dead against the idea, and they're like for the idea that, hey, it's part of evolution, but is it truly, right? So I'm saying there are those of you, in other industries and even in authority positions who are seeing and knowing of stories like this, right? So you guys should really think about all this stuff, especially, right? I'm not telling you guys stop eating meat. I'm just saying this bullshit bill 156 is going to be preventing the public and the consumers from seeing what they should be able to see. It's a constitutional right, right? Isn't it?